Hello everyone, welcome to Property Development System webinar. I hope everybody can hear me. I always ask this question before I start, just to make sure that I can reach everybody. Just want to make sure you can see my screen and you can hear me. So if somebody would type yes, that'll be fantastic. Great, thanks Ken. Okay, let's start. Today's webinar is about doing no money down deals, and the reason I want to put it here is because there are a lot of people who are scared of no money down deals, or they believe that they can't do money down deals. But I think everyone can do no money down deals so long as you're willing to put in the effort. So let's get going. So it's more about, the whole video about no money down deals and everything is already in the course, but I wanted to go through the same material again and give you examples from my real life and how I've done my no money down deals and so on. So let's get going. So what are you going to learn today? We are going to talk about becoming a no money down deal maker, the top 4 ingredients for no money down deals, different kind of sources of equity, understanding sweat or free equity, strategies for creating sweat equity, and all kinds of JVs with landowner, money partner, builder. Whoops, did I just repeat money partner? That's actually private funding. I'll update that next time. Okay, becoming a no money down deal maker. The thing with this is it actually has got a lot to do with the way you are as a person. So, and if you are the kind of person, and most people are, but they're always bad eggs, but I assume that everybody watching this is a really good person, and most of the people that are in this webinar at the moment, I can look at the names and I can tell that I've been in touch with them, and they all look like really good people. So make sure that your number one goal when you're doing a no money down deal with somebody is to make sure that they win first. If you're making $500,000 on a project and you're gonna split that between 250 to 250, and for some reason you didn't make 500,000 or you only made 400,000 or whatever, I would recommend, not everybody can do that, I would recommend, just as goodwill, because I know I would still give them 250 and keep 150. Why? Because I want to make sure that they come back with me on another project again. And that's my way of telling them that I really appreciate you coming along on the journey with me. And it is a journey. It's like a hurdle race. I was doing the project in Brisbane. I've just reached the settlement stage. All the settlements are occurring now, and at every step we've had some sort of a hurdle, an unforeseen hurdle. It's like suddenly an issue with stormwater came up. We're not accounted for that. We're not allowed for the costs for that in our feasibility, but it was a hurdle to cross. Then we got into a fight with the builder. I had not foreseen that, but it came up. So that was another hurdle. Then one of our pre-sales, their finance approval lapsed. So that was another hurdle. So we're not being able to sell one of the units that we really want to sell. That's another hurdle. So the bank's not responding, or the bank's is being a bank. They want to tick all the boxes and make sure that everything is done by the checklist. So we need to make sure that we provide them stuff. So they delayed the progress claim over a month. The builder's on us. Again, another hurdle. So you will come across all these hurdles when you do a project. And when you've got a no money down deal, or a partner who's put in the money and you haven't put in the money, things the dynamics of the thing change, because they need to know that you are still looking after their money just as much as you're looking after your interests or so on, because they could feel that he hasn't got any skin in the game. Why would he or she try and work through this? So make sure that you look after your investors' number one priority, and you do that. And I don't only look after my investors, I'm like that in business, and I'll give you a very good example. The 16 apartments that we were doing in Fitzroy, I have now sold the project with plans and permit. We were gearing up to do the project. We were we've already gone halfway through the working drawing stage and everything was fine, and suddenly we got this offer. We didn't even list it on the market to actually sell the project. We just got an offer through somebody we knew and who knew somebody else and so on. And but in any way, we got the offer that we couldn't refuse, and we said, okay, we'll sell it. And having sold that, we were working with a potential client who was combining the top two apartments together to make one single big apartment. Now that guy, to cover himself, who was supposed to be a prospective buyer, didn't sign the contract with us. We did have a meeting, we shook hands, and he said, look, I'm not going to sign the contract, but I'm going to work with your architect to redesign the top two apartments, take the wall out, do the re-engineering, whatever needs to be done to make sure that his apartment looks the way he wants it to look. So I'm going to spend time and my money with your architect to redesign the two apartments, to combine them. So we said, okay. So this buyer goes out, spends $7,000 with the architect to redesign the top two floors. And then we got this offer where we wanted to sell, and we said, okay, we'll sell it. And we didn't want to spook him, because till the last minute, till the day it was all done, the deal was done, the contract was exchanged, till last day we had so many issues in the project that I didn't want to just tell this client, don't worry about it, we've sold it. And I didn't want to do that, because if the deal didn't go through, I didn't want to lose my sales. So from my business perspective, I was trying to cover my backside, but I was not being transparent with this client because I was afraid that he might run away and all of those things. But the moment that deal was finalized, I discussed this with my partners in the project, and we said that, look, what do we do with XYZ, who's the buyer? And we collectively agreed that we are going to pass him on to the new developer who had bought the project off us. And if for any reason he's unable to get a price with this new developer to buy something in this project, we will reimburse him the $7,000 that he's out of pocket. And we did that. I actually sent the prospective buyer this email, although we haven't got anything signed, but we shook hands. So if for whatever reason you are unable to reach an agreement with the new developer on price, or could be in designing or whatever, basically if he fails to secure that deal in the same development, we will reimburse him the $7,000. And I have given to him exactly the same thing in writing, that if for whatever reason he didn't go ahead with it, we will reimburse it. That's your power, that's your word, and that's your power of your shake hand. And we honor that. And if I really wanted to be a prick and would have said, look, mate, you didn't sign anything, we didn't exchange anything, I owe you nothing. But we decided not to do that, because always remember that you will collect enemies, but you'll always make friends. So you make sure that along this journey you don't burn bridges and you don't step on toes, and you continue making friends as you go along. Now, I might never see this guy ever again in my life, and I could have saved that $7,000 and asked him to go, to to basically not care about it. So but we didn't, and we said, look, in all fairness, we should pay this guy $7,000 if he fails to reach an agreement with the new developer. So that's your promise. So you make sure that and he's not even my investor, you know what I mean? So if I'm dealing with an investor, I make sure that my investor wins before I win. So there are 4 ingredients for deal making. And unless you've got those 4 ingredients, or at least one of them, it'll be very hard to make to do a no money down deal. So basically, you have a deal of a lifetime. So the deal shows profit that's just beyond, and it's like a once in a lifetime deal that those kind of deals don't come every day. And you've got a deal, and they can understand the deal, and they realize how much profit they can make from being part of the deal, they will definitely come with you, because there are more people with money in the world than there are people who know what to do with it. And you make sure that you become the kind of person who knows what to do with it. And you will always have people coming to you saying, look, I've got this money, can I do something? And second, their circumstances are such that what you present or propose to them has the best possible outcome from them, for them. I have a student, I have a mentoring student in Brisbane, and he's doing a no money down deal right now, where he's doing it with a money partner. And if I look at from the money partner's perspective, she's in the best possible position, because there's no way she would be able to do a project like that. But Craig, who's the student, he's in Brisbane. He's actually doing a deal similar to this right now. So, second, if they know, third, if they know more. If they know more is basically if they are educated in the whole process. To a lot of people, this is overwhelming. You see something and then you get scared because you don't know what it is, and all stories that actually stick are usually bad stories, are horror stories where people lost their shirt, or at least lost their buttons while doing a development, and they don't get it, and they come from that mindset. So unless they are educated in the whole process, they will not be forthcoming to do a project with you. So, and that takes time. So what you need to do is present them with everything that you've got in a transparent way, and let them take whatever you presented to them to their advisors or their trusted advisors, who can tell them, okay, look, this report that XYZ has presented to you is rigid, and they've done their research and everything, because that report actually makes you look good. If you go through the report and you try and find out all the answers that need to be in that report, you will realize that you've actually uncovered most of it. You've actually not left anything unturned, any stone unturned, and you've uncovered all the loopholes, all the things, and whatever you are saying in the report is actually backed by market research and so on. The third thing in this is you also have to realize that at what stage of understanding are they at the moment. This is a classic marketing funnel. If anyone studied marketing, there's an awareness stage where people just come across things and they think about it. They go home, they talk to their friends, they talk to their family, because that's their first point of contact. They're people that they already trust. So that's at the time that they are in that awareness stage. They will do market research. They will sit on the internet, find out whatever they can find out. The second stage is, once they become aware of all of this, is consideration. They will consider your offer, see what it looks like for them, what can they do, what can they not do. Then they will come up with their own preferences of what they want to do, and then they will actually take action and so on. And the loyalty would come in after you've delivered a project. They've seen you walk your talk, and that's when the loyalty part and advocacy will come right at the end, once they've done a project with you. I have an investor like that. At the end of the year, I'm planning a seminar, and I'm gonna get all my investors to come in and talk about how their dealing is with us, with myself, and with my team. And they will come in and talk about it. And now I don't have to tell them, can you say good things about me, because they're already going out and telling their friends that, look, you guys should do a deal with these guys. So yeah, the other thing that you got to do is make sure that you know how to manage fear. I actually wrote an article on managing fear on my website. If you go under articles and you go to the second page of the blog, it's actually on this URL, how to overcome fear in property development. And I basically go through my own mindset and my own self-talk that I have to do to manage fear. But imagine this, someone who's getting into this. I'll give you my example. Let me not just go to anybody else. I'll give you my example. In 2013, we started a construction company. And when we started the construction company, my builder on his own as a sole director, we just wouldn't get any insurance, because if you realize, the success of the builder is actually limited by the amount of insurance that they can get, apart from other factors. So those insurance is the first thing that you need in order to even set foot on your first project. So my builder on his own was unable to get insurance, any kind of insurance, on that. And he said to me, "Would you like to be? Can you become one of the directors in the company? Because if you are another director and you've got all these qualifications and everything, and the insurance company will look at it, and it'll be easier for them to give us some insurance." Mate, I literally, I literally froze. You have no idea, because at the time I had not spent that much time with the builder. So I'd known him for maybe 6 months, 7 months. I had worked with him on site, where I was employed by him, and I used to work on construction site in a small cubicle. I hated going to the site toilet. Don't ask me anything about it. I used to drive to the nearest shopping center and go there, but it was horrible. Being on the construction site, it was, yeah. But I worked there in a small cubicle in cold weather. When he at the time we were building a mansion in Toorak, in Melbourne, and it was massive. Like 160,000 was just the bill for the windows in that house. So we were working there, and I worked with him for 6 months. And after that, I told him, "Look, mate, now we got to shake hands and do a partnership, because because I don't want to work for you. I want to work with you." So we wanted to start our own insurance company, own construction company. And from when you start, you basically, they give you nothing. They gave us 500,000 as our insurance. So that basically means, that you've got, basically you can build just 2 townhouses. So do you have builders employed by a building company, or do you just have subcontractors? I have a builder who's the partner. Sorry, that question came in from one of the students. I have a builder, Sam, that you speak to, Craig, is actually a builder. He's been a builder for over 30 years. He's built anything from apartments to townhouses to everything, 18 townhouses, 34 apartments. He's done all of them. So he's been in the trenches himself. And now we have a site manager. Now we have a supervisor who looks at the construction site and everything. And I usually go to the construction site every time there's a progress claim, which is every month. So I go to the construction site to make sure that I've put together everything, because I'll have a QS and a project manager appointed by the lender to come and scrutinize everything that I'm claiming. So that's what happens now in the company at this stage. So yeah, and then since that 500,000, we've actually grown our insurance every year since that time. So at the time he had asked me to become a director, and when you are director in a building company, basically everything that you own is up for grabs if you mess up somewhere. So because your homeowner's warranty insurance is actually based on the amount of assets you own, the amount of equity you've got in the company. So all that, and imagine me, who's never run anything in construction, and if something was going wrong under my nose on a construction site, could it be occupational health and safety? Could it be anything else that's going? I wouldn't be able to tell, or I wouldn't be able to pick up. I am much better now when it comes to the actual nitty gritty of construction on the side, the slabs coming, and all these things are happening on the side. Now I'm much aware because I manage them, but I'm not a builder. I can't build a house. So we have a construction company where we have a builder. The guy who's the site supervisor, he's got a builder's license as well. He used to have his own building company, and once he got shafted by a client, he said, "Forget this. I will never run my own company." So he works for us. So Actually, he works with us because he's really good. And so basically, we've got two people with builder's licenses, and we are planning to offer him something else, or a piece of equity or something, to become one of the directors as well, because we want to grow the construction company so that we can do more developments ourselves and so on. So at that time, I literally froze in my tracks because I said, you know, how am I going to be a builder, because a director of a building company, because I don't know anything about it, and if something went wrong on the side, I basically had to rely completely on my partner of saying, "Look, I'll take care of it." But the thing is, it's the insurance company will get you if you mess up somewhere as a builder. So now I understand more, now I know more, and now I've got no issues. So, but at the time I had a lot of issues. But so you have to go through that cycle of where you understand everything, you see how things are working, and then you're more comfortable taking the next step. So yeah, and you've got to build trust. How do you build trust? The three main ingredients for building trust is basically that they've got to know, trust, and like you, and the trust actually would come from various factors. So first, it'll come from you being very thorough with what you're talking about. If you're not thorough with what you're talking about, they'll pick it up. You might be ticking every box in your checklist that I've got to say this, then I've got to say this, then I'll say that, then I'll present this, then I'll present that. But if you're not thorough with that stuff, they will pick it up in an instant. So many times when, especially, this comes up a lot in public speaking as well. If you really know your material and you memorize it and you are doing everything by the book on stage, but people are just not resonating with what you're saying, it's because they can see that you just memorized everything and you are just basically spewing everything out on the stage from a book. So you really have to know the stuff so that they can see it through. You can't fake this. So unless you spend the time reading about it, understanding every process, asking questions, knowing as much as you can, you will not be able to wing it. It'll just come through. People will say that you're just trying to, pass on a deal and so on. So a lot of credibility comes from if you know your stuff, and whatever you say, you tell them, why don't you go check it out? This is what I'm saying. Why don't you go check it out? And what will happen is the first deal, they'll check you out thoroughly. And after that, they'll say, no, everything that he says checks out. The first time I checked everything out, everything did check out. So the next time they'll say, yeah, no problem. I believe you. So that's how that will happen. Another thing that you can do to get that trust is leverage of other consultants. So if you are telling somebody that, look, this is a really good deal, we can put 4 townhouses on it, and it's your word against an architect's words, basically. If you go to an architect, you get them to do some schematics and give their feedback on what you can do on a site, and then you present it to them, and then you do your numbers and feasibility based on what the architects presented to you. It'll give you a lot more leverage. It'll give you a lot more credibility, because you are now saying what the other guy is saying, what the actual consultant is saying. So then you go in and say, look, I'm basing it on 4 townhouses, but I'm getting my consultant to do some schematics for me. And then when the consultant comes back and say 4, they say, look, I told you it was going to be 4. The consultant agrees with me, and we can put 4 on it, and that's the report based on 4 townhouses. So that'll give you a lot more trust factor. You, like, every time something like this happens, look at it this way, that you are actually gaining points in that trust tally sheet that they've got. So every time something like this happens, you are building that trust. If you say, for example, you go to the bank and you say, look, I'm a developer, I need a loan. Now the banks will almost always say, how many developments have you done? Oh, oops, this is my first development. and the first development is 6 townhouses or 12 townhouses, the bank's going to say, you don't know what you're doing. So, sorry, I can't lend you anything because you got no track record. However, my first development was 9 apartments, and by the time that's finished, which is now, I've got 4 other developments with townhouses and apartments already done and dusted during the same time. But the first apartment, I wanted to get a loan. Now, I couldn't get a loan, but what me and my partner Gary did was we carried the project on our own shoulders right till we were ready to build. And when we were ready to build, that's when we needed the construction loan. So we went and hired a really good known builder who knew what he was doing, and that builder is now publicly listed, and they are credible builders. I mean, they everybody in the market knows them. Every lender knows them. So the bank was more inclined to lend me money for construction for that project because they knew that I had already got the permit. It was ready to build, and the building was handled by another builder. So the credibility will come from the builder in that scenario. So another way you can build trust is if you've got a track record. When I started, we had zero track record. We went to really third tier lender, so to speak, and they charge you an arm and a leg. They keep your soul. You basically signed your life away to them, and they charge you an interest that's just beyond all of us. So, but I've done projects with people with lenders like that. Why? Because nobody else would lend to us because at the time we didn't have any track record. But now we do have track records, and I'm actually now approaching the top 4 banks to say, look, this is what we do, this is what we've done. Would you lend us money? In fact, I've actually got a meeting tomorrow with NAB. So if you don't have that kind of track record, you can borrow credibility from either a mentor, or you can hire an experienced development manager or somebody else who's already done the development, because that brings a lot of credibility. So when I started off, and I had a mentor in property development, and the moment I got my mentor, I said, I can do anything. So every place I went, I said, look, this guy will be looking over my shoulder, everything that I'm doing. This guy would be looking at this, and this. Although my mentor didn't look at everything, but I got that credibility. I leveraged off my mentor. If you've worked with any other investors in the past, whatever they say, that will bring you credibility. And another most important thing is that you got to spend time with your investors. I am actually at the moment working with 2 doctors, and and I've spent hours and hours every day on the phone with them, explaining, talking, and now we've become more like friends. We are friends. Like, I haven't met all of his family, but I know all of his family. He hasn't met all of my family, but he knows all my family. We discuss what our kids are doing. We discuss what we want to do. So I've spent that time and I haven't done that so that he does the development with me, but it was just that rapport that we started talking about our personal life, and now we understand each other. So you make sure that you spend that time to build that rapport with them, and you establish your trust and authority that way, and always present yourself as a professional. Don't try and wing stuff. So those are the things that'll help you get that credibility. So let's look at some of the sources of equity that we can get this equity from. You can borrow from friends or family. You can borrow from business associates, different kind of brokers out there. You can get equity from financial planners. Financial planners are a necessary evil, actually. Because they can really they can actually get you a lot of pre-sales. I know 2 financial planners from Sydney, both of them from Sydney. One of them charges about $30,000 flat for every sale that they will get you. The other one charges $50,000. So you really got to be very desperate to get a couple of pre-sales under your belt to get the project going. That's when you go to them, because they basically take away your developer's profit without actually taking any of the risk. So and you sometimes you got to work with them, sometimes you don't work with them. So but it just depends upon project to project. But those people actually have access to a lot of people with a lot of money. So if you present a good project to them, they might be able to find you investors. They might be able to sell your stock for you as well. Private money is the same as you borrowing from somebody else. Accountants, lawyers, and insurance agents have clients with money. So if you want to develop your network, that's where you will be developing your network. But those people again have to know that when I started off in 2013, and I was doing two projects at the time, and I had a website under the name positivepropertypro.com.au, and I was approached by this big accounting firm, and they said, okay, how do you do this, how do you do that? They called me in into their office, and I was starting out. I wore a suit and went to their office so that I didn't look like a schmuck. And he kept asking me, I mean, there were three different accountants who were sitting there, and they grilled me on everything. And after a while I realized that I think they were just fishing for information, because they wanted to do what I was doing. So because they already had clients. So this guy, goes, oh, can you give me your project report? And I give him my project report, trying to be nice, because at the time I needed them more than they needed me. And those guys never called me after that. I called them 3-4 times to see what happened after the meeting. Nothing. But all they wanted was that project report, so they could put something like that together and present to their clients and do developments for them. So there are all kinds of people out there. Now I know what they are. Now I can actually smell a rat, so to speak. And so I'm careful now, so I don't give out all this information up front, because now I'm in a better bargaining position. But at the time I wasn't, and there were so many different people that came to us for information, took all the information, and then took off. So yeah, you can put together a syndicate, a property syndicate, but you need an AFSL license, which is the Australian Securities and Investment Commission. ASIC actually looks into this, and AFSL stand for Australian Financial Securities License, and there are two different categories for it, under 2 mil and over 2 mil and so on. So but that actually kicks in when you are doing massive, major, big developments, and you are putting together project after project with unrelated parties, and that's when you need somebody with an AFSL license. So a syndicate can do that, and what they do is they can raise. There are companies who specialize in that, and if you've got a project big enough, you can go to that company and say, look, we want to raise money from the market, and they will put together an information memorandum, and they will blast it out to their database, and it will go everywhere. They will charge you an arm and a leg to make sure to do the information memorandum, vet your feasibility, get valuations, and then put together the full project in front of other investors. So that's another way where you can get money from. You can get money from property investment funds, but usually property investment funds will not invest into projects that are 6 townhouses, 12 townhouses, and so on. These property funds actually go after projects that are massive. So you can get money from joint ventures, building contractors, and new and prospective immigrants. A lot of people who migrate, who just migrated recently. You got to realize that people who move to another country are usually cashed up, and the first thing that they need is a place to live. So again, you gotta make sure that they are looking to invest in business and investment opportunities. You gotta make sure that you've presented them with everything, and you establish that interest, that level of trust with them. And then there are people with money that don't know what to do with it, and then it's you who knows how to do everything with it, and that's where you can get your equity from as well. So How do you generate sweat equity or free equity? It actually comes from hard work. That's what sweat equity is, where you put in the man hours rather than you put in your hard labor into projects, and you bring your expertise, and you um, basically get sweat equity. But one of the straightforward ways is by adding value. How do you add value? You can get you basically get an uplift every time you've got a permit. Everybody knows that. But for smaller projects, that's becoming less and less because the vendor who's selling their land at the moment for smaller projects already know the number of townhouses you can put on it or the apartments you can put on it. They are not stupid. They can make a few calls, contact a town planner, contact a draftsman, and figure out what you can actually put on it. And what they want is the price of the land based on what you can actually put on it. So by the time, even if you get a permit, there's not a substantial uplift there. And those days are gone when vendors didn't know what they were doing. Now they do. But the biggest amount of uplift actually comes from rezoning. So if you manage to rezone something that was in commercial and it was right on the fringe of residential and you manage to convert it to residential, that's when your uplift will come in. Or something that was residential right on the fringe of commercial and you change it to commercial, it could change. It could bring a lot of uplift. What happens with commercial is that instead of putting 4 townhouses on it, you could put 20 apartments on it. And that's how that zoning uplift would come in. So if you went and got a permit for 20 apartments on a site that was initially zoned for just 4 townhouses, you'll get a substantial uplift. You'll be able to sell that project with plans and permit without doing anything. Just take it to plans and permit and then put it back on the market. You'll have a windfall basically in that scenario. So you got to be choosy with if that's what you want to do, and that's the time when you say, okay, this is the time I actually sell my project. You take it that thus far, and then you say, okay, I'll wash my hands off it. There it goes, and you'll make a good profit on it. So and you can control something like this via options, via longer settlements, and all those things, and so on. So yeah, and the more equity that you can generate, the less you'll have to inject in the project. Always remember that the bank will, towards the end of it, when it's time for construction, the bank will lend you only 66% of your total GRV, which is the gross realization value. So always make sure that you always got that 33% equity. Now the 33% equity could be the equity that you just generated in your site after you got a permit for 20 apartments, let's say. So remember that. Strategies for creating sweat equity. You can generate fees or you can add value. So there are 2 different ways to do that. Generating fees is the actual sweat equity where you sweat and you generate that equity. Value addition is basically a strategy. So let's look at all of them. So you can charge a project procurement fee. How do you do that? Basically, you make sure that you find a project, you do the numbers, you put a project report together, you do the due diligence, put everything together, take out the address from it, and present the report to a prospective buyer, a developer, a project builder. These kind of people are always looking for projects. I am always looking for projects. So you present it to them and say, look, that's what it is. That's the equity you need. That's what you need. Everything that you need to put something like this together is already in this course. It's already online, available at your disposal. At your disposal. So you can spend the time and you can learn how all of this is done and then present that project and get a spotter's fee for it. And the spotter's fee could range anywhere between 5 grand to 7 grand to 10 grand, depending upon the amount of profit it's got. So if you got me something with plans and permit, you did all the homework for me, and you got to me and said, look, Amber, buy this project, there's 18% development margin for you. I'll be stupid not to buy it because I bought projects with 14% development margin in them. So 10, 14%. As a builder, I know I can do it. And even as a developer, if you're making 14% on a smaller project, yeah, you should take it. Why? Because it's got 14% in it. And these days for smaller projects, the development margin's shrinking every day because the vendors now realize what they can get for it, so they want everything without actually taking any risk. And you can't blame them, because if you were that vendor, you'd do the same thing. So that's how the industry has been. So um, there's no point stressing over it, or there's no point getting upset about it. But that's how the industry is. Although if I do get upset, I actually make the agent know that I'm upset, and I did that last weekend. And we were looking at a project with plans and permit. I've got two mentoring students in Melbourne, and we went there to have a look at it. I think Alain, who's actually in the webinar, he was with me, and we looked at it, and they wanted 250,000 for land for each unit in Croydon. And I said, look, I'm paying 200 in Edithvale for townhouses, where the end value of these townhouses is 650 plus. How do you expect me to pay that low? So I made my presence felt, and that I'd really let the agent know that it's what you're asking, you're not gonna get. So, but anyway, there are a lot of people out there who'll just throw money at it and sit on it, and that'll be a bad buy though, at that price, because the project doesn't work at that price. So you can charge project procurement fee. You can charge if you're really good with numbers and you have everything in this course to do that. There's a specialized there's a 2 second FISO that tells you exactly how much money you would need to do any project. There's a full scale feasibility available in this course that you can use to do financial feasibility. You can watch the videos again, but the only way you'll get good at it is if you start picking up these projects and start doing numbers, start going through the checklist, start doing your due diligence, making sure, start making allowances for costs. If you're not sure what a consultant would cost you, you call them up and you say, 12 townhouse project, I want you to do the engineering for me. What will you charge? Give me a quote. Pick up a phone, call an architect and say, look, take me to working drawing stage, get the quotes from consultants, the energy, for the energy report, or for the engineer. You call it all the consultants, send me your quote if you were to drive it till the building permit. So you'll start getting these quotes, and after a while you start getting an idea of what they cost, so you can allow for them in your feasibility. So unless you've done that for, I don't know, 400 projects, you won't know what you're doing. And the only way to do that is if you go out and I'm not asking you to do the project. I'm asking you to run numbers on 100 different projects, and or 50 different projects, or 20 different projects, until the time where you are comfortable and confident of doing this. Because there will come a time where you will come across a project, and then you don't want to doubt yourself. So you make sure that you spend that time to learn how to do these numbers. Um, excuse me. You can charge a development management fee. Now, development management fee is very different than from project management fee. And if you're in Queensland, I don't think you can even say that you're a project manager unless you've actually done a certificate for or something in project management in construction. Project management for IT is very different than the project management in construction. And there are specialized schools that teach you how to do that. Once upon a time, I wanted to become a project management manager in construction, and I enrolled in a course, paid $3,000, and then they sent me all the material to study the construction. So it was basically, I was becoming a builder to do that. So when they left the material on my doorstep, because I wasn't at home and they delivered it, I needed a forklift to bring that paperwork inside my house. That was so heavy, and they were so big, and they were just 3 modules at the time. I really needed a forklift. Like, me and my son picked it up together and brought it in the house, and I never ever opened it, because I said, forget this, I don't want to be a builder. I don't want to be a project manager in construction. So I decided not to. because project management in construction involves a very in-depth knowledge of all the occupational health and safety. You've got to keep an eye on all the insurances for all the subcontractors that are working on your site. I mean, I know how to schedule projects, put them on Gantt charts, track them. I know how to track the spend that I'm doing on the budget because I'm a numbers guy. I want to make sure that I'm tracking well against my budget. So those are the things that I do. But I don't want to be on site scheduling the caulker is coming on this day. So before the caulker comes in, I've got to make sure that the plumber's out, all those things are there. So that's the site supervisor does that for us. So it's very different, but you can charge a development management fee. And development management or development manager does all of these things. So basically, from site identification to due diligence to concept development, which is basically what can you actually put on it. So you go to an architect, talk to the town planner, see what you can maximize, how you can maximize the site. So if you watch the video on highest best possible use in the course, you'll be able to do all of this. You got to do a business case development, show them the risks, how you're going to manage them, the financial feasibility, how are you going to finance it, how are you going to structure it, what is the procurement strategy, basically how are you going to negotiate all the terms and conditions for settlement and all those things, all the legal documentation management. It could come in as the time of purchase. It comes in when you need off the plan contracts. It comes in when you're settling on your pre-sales, all those things. So and you engage and liaise with all the consultants required for any job. Once you do that, the job of the development manager sort of stops because then the construction starts. Oh, sorry, after the building permit, then the construction starts. So once the construction starts, this is where I stop. And then I pick it up again when it's time to get all the titles in. It's time to actually make sure all the pre-sales are settling on time. It is time to make sure that all the marketing material, everything that I promised in my marketing contract, all that. So if you look at all of this is everything that I do every day, apart from the construction portion. And this is where the construction portion kicks in right after tendering and selecting building contractor. Now over here, because I do all my construction in-house, we sit together on a table and get all the specs and everything else ready. We actually get it ready up here because all the specs and all these things have to go in the off the plan contract as well. So but the project that I did in Brisbane, I was right till here until we had actually let the project, and we got quotes from two different builders, and I went with the quote that I was comfortable with. So that's when we stop, and then we pick up again. And this is, if you ever looked up what a development manager does, this is everything that they do, which is everything except for construction. So so that's you can charge a fee for it. And what can you charge? You can charge anywhere from $10,000 a townhouse or $10,000 an apartment. You can charge a fixed fee based on the actual project, between 1 to 7%. You can draw down against milestones. You can even build in something which is known as a success fee. I actually did that with the project in Chelsea. I built a success fee into this, and my agreement, which was a development management agreement with the landowner, I got an extra fee for getting the permit on basically on what we had promised. So I charged an upfront fee, and then I took it to planning, and then we went to VCAT, and then we managed to get the permit, and I charged a success fee for it. So all these things can be put in. At the moment, we've got a client, not really well. We're working with somebody. They've got this their first development, and they are doing it in Bond Beach in Melbourne, and it's just two townhouses, and they've already got the permit. And they came to us when the NOD, which is the notice of decision, was issued, and it wasn't a permit. I don't think it's even a permit as yet. But now we're holding their hand and saying, look, we'll take you to the building permit, and then we'll build it for you. But even to take it to the building permit, we are charging a fee. We're managing all the consultants. We are getting all the quotes done for them. It's just work, and we've generated a fee from it. So, and we've already been paid that fee. So whether or not he chooses us to build the project for him, because we'll give him everything so that he can go out and tender it to another builder as well. Although we've said, look, this is the price that we are happy to build it at, and chances are that we will build it for him. So you can charge that fee. Marketing or leasing fees. As a developer, you're allowed to sell your projects yourself, and you don't need to have a real estate license in order to do that. I'm sorry, I'm almost finished, but we might go a little bit over, but I want to finish this. So look at it this way. You could get in touch with realestate.com.au and say, look, we are going to sell our development ourselves, because you're allowed to do that. They will give you a package. That package will probably their advertising package, and that package will cost you anywhere between $3,000 a month for every 3 months, and then you can renew it month by month after the first 3 months. So your total cost out of the project is what, 16 grand, maybe 15 grand for 5 months. And if you were paying 2% commission to an agent to do that, and you were selling something that's 600,000, that's $12,000 in commission, and you got 5 of those, that's $60,000, and it costs you $16,000 to sell it yourself, which basically means that you'll have to have the marketing material. So make sure you go through the marketing module for that. But if you've got all the marketing material, all you have to do is organize these opens on Saturdays, be there, take their notes, talk to them on the phone, and if you can organize that, you go to your investors or whoever you're doing the project with, and say, look, if we go to the agent, it'll cost us $60,000. If we do it ourselves, it'll cost us $16,000 with realestate.com.au. Do you mind if I keep another $15,000 if I manage the whole process for you? Why not? You've just made $15,000 and saved the project another $30,000. So at this stage, I'm not doing that because I'm and I really wanted to. The reason is that we've already got a really good agent and who works at a really good fee for us. But I was very close. I've had all the meetings with realestate.com.au. I've got all the prices. I know exactly what I'm doing, but on the last minute we decided, okay, we'll get this agent to sell it for us, but you can generate a fee for it because it adds to the bottom line of the project. Property management fee, but you really got to be a property manager to be able to do that. This is towards the end. If your investor wants to keep some, you can become the property manager for it. But I'm pretty sure that you need to do a course to be a property manager. And once you are a property manager, you can manage properties. It's property management is very different to becoming a fully licensed real estate agent, because fully licensed real estate agent comes with a lot of stuff, but a property management I think is a lot easier than a full licensed agent. But anyway, you'll have to dig into this. But it's a little bit difficult in the sense that you've got to make sure that you've got the right qualifications for it. Value addition, again, rezoning, land subdivision. So if you want to get into that rezoning side of it, where you could rezone a land for something, I think you need to start with studying your the plan of your city, the expansion plan, the urban growth boundary. What are the growth corridors already identified in the plan? For example, in Victoria, they've got Melbourne 2050 plan, and they talk about where the government's going to go in and invest in infrastructure, in which suburb they're going to go to, and what's the next one they're going to go to, and what's number 3 on their list, and all those things. So if you follow that and if you study that, you'll be able to pick out the areas that you can find on fringes that can be exploited to be rezoned, and that's how you find them. You can subdivide the land, which is really boring because land subdivision actually costs a fair bit of money upfront, especially if you're doing land subdivision in outskirts. If you're doing it too far away from the main city and everything, it's the holding costs and all the things matter. But you can do land subdivision even in infill sites. So say for example you find a site that you could put 20 townhouses on it. So you go and get a permit for 20 townhouses. You'll have an initial plan of subdivision. You bring in all the services and you pledge to the council. There's in Victoria, there's a section 173 that you got to fill out and sign, basically telling the council that you'll build exactly what your plan says on it, and you'll build that in the next 2 years and so on, and you can extend that permit for another 2 years, and you can then sell that land without actually building townhouses or anything on it. So if you sell those land, you'll have the equity, and if you can do a JV with the builder at the same time, you can actually do like a house and land package, but it'll be more like a townhouse and land package, and you can sell it, but you'll get the money upfront for land. So it's another creative way of doing it. Getting a permit or DI, you can get permit or DI. Smaller sites won't be that profitable, but again, as I mentioned, on a site where you could only put 4 townhouses and you manage to get a permit for 20 apartments, that uplift would be really good. JV with the landowner. There are 3 common ways to do a deal with the landowner. Number 1, the landowner supplies the land and you put in the sweat equity. So you can use the land as equity to get finance, which is basically a no money down deal. This is the conventional run-of-the-mill no money down deal, where the landowner doesn't know what to do, you know everything how to do it, but they're becoming far less common in smaller sites, because now the landowners are more astute. They know what they're doing, or at least they know what their land is worth, or what can be done on the side, or who can they approach to do stuff like that. So, but there are different ways of restructuring it. As we speak, I am in negotiations with the landowner in Aspendale to do exactly that. And in exchange, what she wants a value of her land, which is fine. But in exchange, she's saying that I will keep 1 townhouse. We plan on building 7-8 townhouses on it, and she says we'll have that. So we are negotiating on terms, how the value of that townhouse will be determined. It has to be done by using a valuation from a third party. So if you look at it this way, I'll be paying the landowner with the equity that I will generate in the townhouse after the construction is complete. So let's say the cost of the townhouse would be 500K, but the value could be 750,000. So I've just generated 250,000 to pay the land off. So that's how I'm going to do this deal, and we are negotiating at the moment for a site in Aspendale for this. This is again, the settlement will be 12-month settlement, happens in the distance. I go get plans and permit ready to build before I even spend any money. So landowner can realize higher land value than they otherwise can. It only works if the landowner is willing to wait. In this scenario, that landowner is willing to wait. They can also opt to roll over their profits into townhouses or apartments that will eventually be developed and held by them as long-term investment. She's not rolling over her profit, but she's saying, I want to keep 1 brand new townhouse, which is fantastic for us. 1 less to sell. So that's how this will unfold. The project can start quicker because there's equity in the land already. There's a caution list of doing and you got to remember that the landowner must have equity in the land. If the landowner's got a mortgage on the land, which is 80% LVR, 80% debt on it, there's no point doing a deal with them because they need money too. So they've got no equity in it. Another way you can do that is by stage acquisition. This happens with large parcels of land, where you acquire a portion of the land, develop it, do it stage 1, and in the second stage you acquire the other portion of land and you develop it, and then you go for stage 3 and so on. So important factors to consider is there a mortgage on the land? How much? If it's only, let's say there's only 20% of the equity that's in debt, it can still work. Does the site already have a permit? What does the landowner want? and when do you pay off the landowner. So do you pay them upfront? Do you pay them half now, half later? Or do you pay them half now and the rest is adjusted against the new townhouse that they will keep towards the end of it? All those things are, this is so fluid that it just depends upon what you're able to negotiate with the landowner based on the landowner's needs so that both parties win. So 10 steps for execution. Developer puts the deal together. You transfer the land into a new entity so that you start from a clean slate. You will have to pay for the valuation. You will have to decide on the shareholding. You'll have to pay the stamp duty. It's actually better to pay that stamp duty because then everything is clean and then you both parties are in the project. Otherwise, the land stays in their name. You doing the development. It's very difficult to get a lot of mechanics to work because how are you going to charge a fee? Okay, there will be a development management fee equal to 20% of the profit. All those things can be worked out, but then again, towards the end, it's their land, they own it, and you spend your money to get the plans and permit. It's their land, and then it starts getting complicated. Legally, it just becomes a nightmare. So it is always better to have it transferred into a separate entity and you start from scratch with that entity. Not only that, it's even better for them because it might be their PPR. There might be issues with their capital gains tax and so on. If they live in a PPR and then they decide to develop it one day, and then how does the ATO calculate their capital gains tax because you're already in there and you've just developed the block of land and all those things. So it gets complicated if the land stays in their name. So have a JV unit holders agreement between the two parties. Make sure you have that agreement. I can't stress this enough. If you don't have an agreement, there's going to be a fight later on could be on any trivial issue, but I see a lot of disagreements. I see a lot of conflict later down the track. So make sure you have a JV agreement. You obtain the permits, you use the equity in the land to obtain the construction loan, and then you develop and sell the project. There are other mechanics that work here because the landowner is going to say, look, if I transfer it there, then what's my security of the land? Okay, initially they can have the first mortgage on it, but then they also have to realize that they'll have to take the first mortgage off when it's time for construction because the lender who will lend the money for construction will need to have a first mortgage. And if somebody else files in another mortgage underneath, the lenders don't like it. So those are the things that you'll have to navigate around in order to do a JV with the landowner. So you can develop and sell the project. Your bank lender will get paid first. Landowner is then paid out of the land from the remaining settlement of the funds. Profits are distributed as per the agreed shareholding or unit holding. And both parties throw a success party and invite all of us after the project is complete. JV with landowner, granting the developer development rights over the land. How do you do that? You can do that by doing a development agreement, or you can do a call option. Just remember that there are two kinds of options. You can get a call option and a put option. Never get a put option because in a put option, the landowner can actually force you to settle on it based on the price that you guys agreed on. Call option is up to you, that if the option runs out and you are not ready for whatever reason or you uncovered something, you minimize your loss to basically on get the money that you spend on getting plans and permit. But if you don't exercise the option, you are scot-free. You can get out of it unless they actually put in, again, call option agreements. There's no specific template. If somebody says, I'll give you my options agreement template, read it, but go to a proper lawyer to get a call option drafted specific to your project. And there's no cut and paste in this, and do not try and cut corners in this. So if you do a call option, usually the landowner will get a higher value for their land in exchange for time because you would need about minimum 12 months to turn everything around. You can also, I've done option. I did an option which was a zero. It cost me nothing, but it actually cost me 35,000 on doing some research, and the project didn't come to fruition. So I have lost 35,000 on an option, but that 35,000 actually went to get the schematics done. It was a $55 million project, and we had to hire consultants to do the yield for us, to do soil tests, to do all sorts of other things. So we paid to consultants to to see whether or not the project had anything. But the thing was, we could have executed this, but initially when we got into the option, I only negotiated 12 months. I should have negotiated 24 months because we would have done something about it in 24 months. 12 months was too short. We had to go to the council, fight with counselors, all those things. So those are the things, but it depends upon project to project. Landlord can also provide you vendor finance where they transfer the property to you. But again, in vendor finance, you got to remember that if the vendor finances you, they would want a first mortgage. And you will still have to talk to them that, look, when it comes to construction, you'll have to take your first mortgage off so that the construction lender can get the first mortgage. And at that time, you could offer some other property that you own that, look, I'll give you the first mortgage, or I'll let you file a caveat on another property that I own, so that you are secure at all times and you can negotiate all these things with them. So and vendor financing can work if you offer them better interest rate. So it could be that you'll pay them 50%, let them finance the 50% for you, and you say, okay, the bank, if you put your money in the bank, what will you get? 3% in today's time, and you offer them, I'll give you 5%, or I'll give you 6%, and they know that they can't get 6% on their money anywhere else in the bank, so it could work for them. JV with landowner, what happens if the landowner requires cash to move on? Well, then you won't have a JV with them because their immediate need is that they need that cash. So it'll be very difficult to do that. But you can negotiate the length of time, whether it's a 12 to 18 month option, whether it's a 6 to 12 month settlement, even that's time. Every month that you can get extra, you're actually improving your bottom line in holding costs. So all these terms and conditions are always negotiable and fluid. It just depends upon what you are able to negotiate with them. JV with money partner, you can find investors with line of credits. You can find investors with access to equity. You provide the sweat equity and they provide the cash. You bring in the expertise and they provide the cash. You bring in the deal and they invest with you, and you manage the development and they provide the cash. So basically you are doing all the footwork, you are doing everything that needs to be done to do the project, and those people are people with the line of credit that they can use and utilize to do something like that. But you got to be very cautious of a few things in this. If they are providing the equity and they are part of the project, a lot of people, I got a call from my son goes for cricket training, and I go to training with him, and there's a person, his son comes to the same cricket training, and he started talking, what do you do? And this is going back a few years now. So he knew what I was doing and everything, and then he looked me up, and the other day he met my son. I wasn't at the training, so he got my number, everything, and then he gives me a call and say, "Oh, how's the market?" And I said, "Look, market's fine. There's not a lot of investors there, but the genuine buyers are still here." So he goes, "Oh, I want to do a development project." I said, "Yeah, that's fine." So and I said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "Oh, if the project, if you guarantee me that you will give me 20% return, then I'll do the project." And I said, "Look, Mike, there's no guarantees. If you want a guarantee on your money, become a bank for the project. You sit outside, do a loan agreement with us, lend us your money, we'll give you 10% on your money as a guarantee." But that means you got no access to the equity in the project, which basically means that the profit sharing, we're not going to share the profit with you. So you're just going to get flat 10% on your money. Why? Because he doesn't want to be on the loan. He doesn't want to be liable for anything. He doesn't want to take any risk. If he doesn't want to take any risk, become a bank. Sit outside, lend us the money, and I'll give you my personal guarantee. All of us in the project will give him the personal guarantee because he then becomes a bank for us. And we'll give you the 10% on your money if you want guarantees. If they because very soon they realize that their money is working to make you money, and then they'll say, oh no, I want to be part of the project. If you want to be part of the project, you got to go on the loan. Everybody, for example, all the projects that we do, no matter who's the director there, there's a personal guarantee signed by all unit holders or all shareholders of the project. So it's not like it's just my neck on the line. It's everyone is jointly and severally responsible. And most of the time, lenders will enforce that on all shareholders or all unit holders. So if they don't want to go on a loan, don't want to be directors, don't want to be held liable for anything, let them become a bank. And you make it really clear to them. So that's one of the things that'll come up every time you're doing a JV with somebody. You got to be aware of personalities. You got to stay away from negative people. You got to stay away from nitpickers, and be aware of finger pointers, because there are people who all they want to do is point a finger at, I am like this because of you. Because of you, I lost this money. Because of you, the project failed. Because of you, we didn't get the permit on time. Because of you, stay away from those people, because if I work with somebody like that who's pointing my finger, that I literally feel like grabbing their finger and breaking it. Because if you, if you are in the project with me, you're like family, and we work through problems. No matter how we do it, we will find a solution of doing it. That's the kind of mentality that I want to work with. If someone's there just to point a finger at me and nitpick me, I don't want to do a deal with them. I will never do a deal. I won't even use them as a bank, because those are negative people. You don't want them in your life. So make sure that you give no guarantees on project returns, timelines, or budget, because as I said when we started, that this property development is a hurdle race. You got to jump hurdles, and that's when you'll get to your goal. So if you're thinking everything's gonna be smooth sailing, yes, it is smooth sailing after a while, because you learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable. So you make sure that you do not give any such guarantees. Project timelines, yes, but what happens if the council doesn't give you a permit in the time they said that they will? What happens? They give you a permit, and then somebody else takes you to WCAT, and you've got objections to handle. What happens when you can't get your pre-sales in the time that you allocated that you'll get your pre-sales? So all those things become variable. So although you might be doing whatever needs to be done by the book, but there are factors that you got to take into your stride and say, look, you will work through this. But make sure that the kind of person you get into this deal with have the same kind of mindset as you do. So that's very important. For me, mindset is number one thing before I do a deal with anybody. You got to define the shareholding in the project earlier on. You got to explain them all the risks. Ask them in writing to get their own independent legal advice. And the reason is that because most often, if something did go wrong at a later stage, they will say, oh, I didn't know any better. He forced me in this project. Or they just sucked me into this, and I'm the naive, stupid man. I didn't know anything. They just took all my money. It doesn't work like that. So make sure that you give them everything in writing, everything via email. Keep those emails if they are getting in there, and you'll be able to gauge what kind of person you're dealing with after a few meetings. That's why that building rapport and all those things are important. Have a JV agreement in place, which basically outlines the scope of work that will be performed by each party. If they're a sleeping partner, they can sleep, but that means that they will let you drive the project. You got to lay down the rules of what will happen if either party does not fulfill their obligations. So let's say you're a 20% stakeholder in a project, and the other party is 80%, and they've got to put in 80%, and then there's equity injection required just before construction by the lender. The lender says the valuation didn't come in that good. You got to put in X amount of money, and you have to put in X amount of money, and you are ready with the money, but the other party is not. What happens then? So you got to make sure that you account for all those things, and all those things are talked through in and written, and a JV agreement is signed between the two parties. You got also got to understand what kind of liability sharing is going to be in the project, and because all this will go in your JV agreement, and an exit strategy. Both parties could say, "Look, we got so far, but it looks like we don't want to go ahead anymore. We will sell the project together." Now, you might want to continue with the project. You might say, "Look, I can bring in other investors in." Now, the other party may not want to go ahead with the project. You got to put in the JV agreement that you'll have the first right of refusal if the other party wants to exit. And it could be the same for you as well. You might want to exit and they might want to continue, so they should have the first right of refusal. Or if you can't reach an accord, you already decide upfront that, look, we'll sell the project towards the end of it. Make sure you drive the project. They could be a sleeping partner. They could be somebody who's lent you money, but don't let them select the color of the walls. Don't let them select the thickness of your stone bench top. So if those people come in and they don't know what they're doing, you are the one with the expertise. You are the one who's found the project. You are the one who should be making the decision. So don't let do that. A lot of people say, look, oh, I want to learn, I want to come for all the meetings, but during the day I work. Well, if you go to work during the day and I have to go and see an architect, I don't think which architect will see us on a Saturday or after 5 p.m. So in this scenario, you tell them that you will organize the meetings and let them know when the meeting is at, but those meetings will be organized based on your convenience, because you got to keep continuing with the project. You got to drive the project. You can't let anybody else slow the project down. So, and if they want to come to the meeting, they can make themselves available next Wednesday at 10 a.m. And then if they can make it to the meeting, by all means, take them to the meeting, explain them what's happening. Always try and accommodate them. If you can, always try and accommodate them. But if you can't and you think that all this is going to mess up my week, don't do that. So, be transparent and caring. You make sure that you report on time. So if you've got a JV partner, you've got responsibility towards them. Make sure that you report to them on time. Call them, text them, keep them engaged. Give them the reasoning behind every decision that you make. So if you want to sell early, you got to come back to them and say, look, we were on the market for X amount of days. We've not had a good response, but if you've got an offer that we can sell the project, I think we should sell the project. So make sure that you give them a rationale behind your decision making. So make them feel that they are important and they are part of the project. Don't shun them. Make sure that you try and educate them as you go along. You explain them the things. All those things are important. You must provide them with information without them asking for it. So you should never reach a time in the month where they're calling you and saying, you spent X amount of money, where are the invoices, what did you spend this money on, or what did you spend that money on. So make sure that your report, your weekly report or your monthly report is sent to them even before they call you, because remember, you're building trust and credibility as you go along. It doesn't stop after you've got into a deal. You're actually continually working on it, because this is not the first one you want to do or the last one you want to do. In any circumstances, never make them feel unimportant or foolish. Now, you will always have more knowledge and more know-how or more expertise in this field than they would. So make sure that you don't make them look stupid. If they don't know, you always go to them and you tell them, that's all right. When I started, I didn't know anything about it either, but this is how it works. So, and don't be cocky, basically. So always make sure that it's a lot about relationship in this industry. You can learn everything, but if you are a prick, no one's gonna do a deal with you. And I've come across a developer we sold the project to. He's a prick, like literally a prick. I'll never do a deal with him. Like I will never be in the same project with him ever. And I don't know how long is he gonna last in the industry, because he is a prick. So nobody wants to work with a prick, and nobody wants to work with a super smart, know-it-all person either. So make sure that you tone your arrogance down if you are getting arrogant. So be down to earth and respect them and care for them. And you are benefiting from this venture as much as they are. So treat your investors and money partners with a lot of respect. If they don't know a process or don't understand something, be willing to explain them in a polite way. Have patience, and always remember that people will respect you more if they know that you care, irrespective of your experience or your knowledge or your expertise. If they know that you don't care, they will not respect you, because nobody wants to work with somebody who doesn't care or doesn't give a rat's ass, basically. So remember that. Work out solutions to problems as a team. If you become aware of a problem, let them know, and let them know the steps you are taking to solve that problem, because you will get problems and you will need to solve them. Always address everything as we and not I. You will be dealing with, let's say you are driving everything. You're dealing with all the consultants, lawyers, you're dealing with the agent, you're dealing with the builder, you're doing all these things. But I kid you not, I've been in a project where I've driven the entire project by myself, and I've been with a partner in the project, and I've done all the communication. I cannot find a single email where I would have used the word I, because I sent you this. It was always we think, we do that, and we do this, because I'm in. There wasn't a no money down deal with me. It was a 50-50% partnership in the project, but I was doing all the communication, and I've never used the letter I anywhere in that email, although I did all the work. But I never used that word anywhere to the third party, where I said I did this or I did this or I'll send you this. It was always we'll send you the stuff. We're doing this. That's what we think. Even though I was thinking that, do you know what I mean? So this is just a sign of respect, and you need to make sure that you do that. Agree to disagree, and don't get into arguments or gunfights. You'll be married till the end of the project, and it is best and cheaper to work through the problem rather than invite each other to a gunfight. Um, and you always have to see, what would you rather do? Would you rather get even or get ahead in life? So I'd rather get ahead in life rather than get even. So always remember, you collect enemies and you make friends. So don't go collecting enemies. So we're almost there. Last few things. I think we've gone past, and we're touching an hour and a half. Sorry, I got a little bit carried away today. But JV with the builder. Often builders are looking for work. There are lots of builders in the market who pick up projects with plans and permit, because they are the only ones who can actually make any money on them, because the landowner wants the world for it. So you can always find builders who are looking for work, where you supply the land and they supply the construction, and you do a joint venture together, and you can cross pollinate. So you could, in a same deal, you could have a JV with the landowner, and on the other side you could have a JV with the builder, all both deals happening at once, so long as everyone's winning. JV with a money partner could be private funding. You can borrow money on flat interest rate, use development side as security. Make sure your private lender understand that during construction they won't have anything. So I'm finished for the night, and if you wanted to ask me any questions, go ahead, because my mouth is dry and tired from talking. So I'll ask any questions. I'll give you another 5 more minutes. If nobody asks any question, then I'll say good night, and wish you guys all the very best. Looks like no one wants to ask any questions. Okay, thanks, Amber. Thank you, Ken. Thank you for sitting through almost an hour and a half today. No questions. Thanks, Amber. Good night. Thank you very much. Wish you guys all the very best, guys. I'm not sure if everyone knows about this page. Facebook.com groups/property development system. This is a closed group. If you wanted to join this group, all you gotta do is send me and come to this group on Facebook, ask to join, and I'll let you into the group if you haven't already done so. I post a video while driving to work every week, and you'll see that it's got a video coming in, and I pick up a topic, and whatever's in my head I actually spit it out. So have a watch these videos. So send me a request to join the group and I'll let you in. Yeah, wish you all the best. We'll catch you next month.